أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Amini Suwedi, and you're listening to the Murid Talks podcast. Welcome back once again, dear listeners, to another solo episode of the podcast. In today's episode, we shall be discussing the power of nothing. The power of nothing. Before we continue, it is important, first of all, to establish what we mean when we say or use the word thing, as in something. What do we mean when we use that word? In my understanding, the main focus is on a particular object, an existence that we are aware of. This could be an event, such as in the statement, something happened, or a thought process, be it an idea or a word, as when we say, let me tell you something. It could also be a tangible entity, such as a ball, as in the statement, something fell from the sky. Funny enough, we don't use the word thing to designate humans. As humans take a subjective point of view, we are the subject that experiences or is aware of the object that we identify as a thing. With humans, we use the term one as in someone, this one, that one. Of course, I'm speaking specifically here from the English language. It could very well be that other languages have different manners of speech. So in a sense, our everyday thinking is bound by a subtle yet persistent subject-object duality. The one surrounded by things. Things surrounding the one. It is also quite interesting that a similar dualistic framework is established in relation to God. God becomes the one in contrast to everything. The super subject in contrast to all objects. God creates everything. God knows everything. God wills everything, and so on and so forth. And in this context, of course, human beings become a thing in contrast in relation to God, an object. See, today, I wish to propose that this is just one myth. And once again, I don't mean by the word myth the general understanding of a lie or fiction in the purest sense. Although every myth is inherently a necessary lie we uphold to make sense of unconditioned reality, which includes all concepts such as religion, science, and even our sense of self, I propose the initial observation is one such myth, a necessary lie, if you will, the myth of things. In order to function as subjects, we necessarily objectify, a process that creates a sense of opposition and otherness, of separation, giving rise to things standing opposite to the one. This itself is a useful occurrence, a basic mode that allows meta-subjectivity, which basically means a subject that is aware of itself as a subject. Right? In order to do that, you require a certain sense of objectification of oneself. This reflective nature is a common faculty of the subject-object duality. Albeit its usefulness in everyday life, this myth is problematic when we truly wish to understand who we are. Not that we aren't the subject that is aware of objects, that we are, but we generally tend to draw a line as to where this subjectivity ends, usually within our skin, and much more specifically behind the skull and somewhere around the region of the brain. With this, we need to introduce a different myth, what I would like to call the myth of nothing. For long, I've followed the metaphysical principle that nothing is impossible. And yes, there is truth to it, but this too is a myth, a necessary lie for us to make sense of reality. Basically, due to the nature of our particularized subjectivity, we generally know of no other state of affairs other than that where things exist. To recall the question, why is there something instead of nothing? Existence instead of non-existence. Our modus operandi is existence, a populated state of affairs. Yet, we overlook the state of affairs that upholds or underlies that of existence, what some would like to call no-thingness, nothingness. Let me not make things extremely complicated and use very practical anecdotes. If all there was were sounds, we wouldn't be able to hear anything in particular. Try listening to music in a loud market or banging club. Hearing presupposes silence. Without darkness, we wouldn't be able to see. We would basically be overwhelmed by light. Like when you look directly into the sun, you're blinded for a bit. You can't navigate a room filled to the brim. You need space. Even the so-called things that we assume to be solid, once observed closely, are made up of more space than actual atomic particles, whatever we think these atomic particles are. In a more coding terminology, we would say the off is as much important as the on, the zero as the one. Even sleep, deep sleep, is necessary. The closest we can come to understanding no-thingness, nothingness. Our dreams and waking awareness presuppose this empty state in order to operate, in order to populate the worlds accordingly. Like a movie playing on a screen, you need a blank screen to have something play on it, or from it. See, the usual modus operandi is the film. We are already so in tune with the subject-object, fluctuating orchestral hodgepodge of everything, and we basically relegate the observation to someone outside the system. But my proposal is that as much as we are in the system, we are also outside of it. As much as I am this particular subject known as Amini, I am that from which all subjectivity and objectivity arises. It all comes down to which point of view I wish to take, the on or the off. Unfortunately, we take the off position passively when we sleep. It just so happens that we tap into the awareness of nothing. Yet, we are not usually trained by our language, by our faiths, by our lifestyles to penetrate this state even in our waking state, to abide silently, to observe in darkness, to be nothing. The power of nothing is, in its all-encompassing nature, to allow all things to be what they are without imposing. Without nothing, there wouldn't be something. So, it's not either or. Nothing is as important a myth as something. Silence as sound, darkness as light, death as life, non-being as being. Now, if one says, ultimately, that something cannot come out of nothing, well, tell them it already has. Until next time, I bid you farewell and a lovely day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.